Hello. I just noticed they did not leave us the short-term rental application,
Okay.
so I can pull it up on my computer if we want to, because you know Bill's not here today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure if we just read it, if there's any issues with it.
I figure this could be a very short meeting tonight.
Yeah, well, there might be some northern lights if it clears, so we'll make it snappy.
Because we're not, you notice I didn't put any of that agenda item like the blasting or even your comment. I figured I wanted Bill here to talk about some of that stuff, so.
Yeah, and I actually forwarded Bill some, I talked to a guy at the New Hampshire Municipal Association today, and he gave me some statutes about manufactured housing. And actually, we don't define manufactured housing in our ordinance.
You don't?
Not that I may overlook, but I did. And the state does define it, so I would assume that we at least default to the state's definition if we don't have our own. But the state also has this other definition for, I think it's called pre-site built homes. And I'm a little confused as to what the difference, even though each one, both the manufactured definition and the pre-site built home definition, make a point of excluding the other. And the only thing in the manufactured one, they talk about it being on a permanent chassis, whatever that means. That means like a wheeled frame?
Well, that's what, see, yeah, because that's what I always thought.
And that it, wheeled chassis, and that and it's designed to be used either on a permanent foundation or no foundation. Whereas a regular home would require a foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not sure that our ordinance necessarily restricts the type of manufactured housing that we're talking about. So it should really just be...
And that was Bill's point, is that he didn't think we did restrict it.
Yeah. Well, it says manufactured housing, which is I thought pretty broad, until I saw this weird separate definition that the state has. I think that does give us an out. We also say parked in ours. No, 2 or more blah, blah, blah can't be parked. P-A-R-K-E-D.
Correct. And from my understanding, Bill meant that we can't have like a mobile.
We have a mobile home park,
right?
But to say that 2 or more can't be parked, P-A-R-K-E-D, that'd be an odd way of saying that. Is that a way of saying that they're part of a park? That they're parked? That sounds more like they're driven into position.
Does parked mean they're mobile still versus?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Putting more of like a foundation around it?
It's an odd way of saying they're part of a park. You could come up with a much clearer way of saying that. And so I think it's more according to them being, i.e., quote unquote, mobile. Anyhow, that was my research into that.
Cool.
And then the other thing is that we have a short-term rental application that was denied by the select board because I think it came through us too, because they were advertising 3 bedrooms, but they wanted to advertise 3 bedrooms, but they only have a septic approval and a tax card for 2.
That is correct.
And
I wasn't sure if you wanted to bring that up.
Well, I'm going to be meeting with Bob Thompson and Jason, the council, I read through Jason's comments, and I think he does have a point that we don't really specify number of bedrooms on the ad. We specify number of occupants, which is based on the allowable number of bedrooms.
Correct.
We
Bill and I
don't-
talked to that,
We don't actually specify that they can't say
and we did that intentionally.
X number of bedrooms.
Bill recalls that we did that intentionally, not mentioning how many bedrooms.
Well, and I remember there was a lot of discussion about, you know, what qualifies as a bedroom, and, you know, there's a living room, a pull-out and all that, but
But that's why, because we talked about it last week, I said, do you want me to bring that up?
But
He wants to wait for the ZBA.
yeah, and I'm going to go to that, and I think it doesn't almost matter in this case, because I think that if this guy, regardless of whether he's allowed to advertise more bedrooms than the septic and tax card on a short-term rental advertisement, I would think by doing so, that gives the select board the ability to issue a violation. You know, he's violating state septic approval and minimum lot
Right.
size.
Well, but it's funny because Barbara and I just talked about that because she asked if it was going to come up, and I said, well, Bill didn't want it to come up because he wants to wait for the ZBA
Yeah,
decision.
right.
Because if the ZBA may say he is in violation because the intent was bedrooms, then we will have to change our ordinance to be clearer. I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
It's not a
I just-
short-term rental issue, it's a building permit.
Right,
And-
or an occupancy permit.
Permit.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, so
just
sure,
like you.
so sure, he can advertise, but we'll just pull his occupancy permit.
Correct. Right. It's just like you and I. We can't,
Yeah,
you know, if Kevin came in and said, I have 5 bedrooms, but I got a 3 bedrooms
Yeah.
septic,
Yeah.
I'd be in violation.
right,
He is just publicly saying
Right.
that he's in violation.
right, exactly.
Of that.
Exactly.
So to me, it's a Kevin Bennett, that's a building inspector,
I agree, yeah.
and that's where Bill's on the
Yeah.
same page. He goes, I'd rather not to change it. I like
Right.
it. Because he said, I forgot, and he reminded me, we had
Right.
long discussions on,
Yeah,
do we mention
yeah, I know,
bedrooms
that reminds me too, but
versus we
Yeah, I
were,
think
we
we-
were comfortable with occupancy.
yeah, I think we need to think about it. If someone can get around that, if someone can advertise more bedrooms than they're allowed,
Hello.
you know, they can say the issue, and maybe this wouldn't even come up enough, but if they say we've got, you know, it's limited to 6 people, but we got 5 bedrooms, just picking a,
Right.
you know, extreme number out of the hat. I think that, you know, neither we nor the short-term rental owner can really police how many people actually spend the night.
Correct.
And so if I were a short-term renter, and I saw 6 people but 5 bedrooms, I'd say, okay, I'll just bring my friends and won't say anything, you know?
Right.
And so I think there is a bit of a concern, but, you know.
But else, and again, yes, the whole policing issue is more challenging in the sense that he is not in violation of the way our thing. He's advertising for 6 people.
Yeah.
Even in his current 2-bedroom house, that's
Right.
that's allowed.
Right.
So you're right, because the reality is if even that situation, if he brings up 8 people, nobody's going to know there are 8 people sleeping in it.
Right.
All we're saying is you can't advertise and encourage people to bring in
Right.
8 people.
Right. Exactly.
You know, whatever they bring up, and then you can't even hold them accountable for it the way no one's on site. You know, so it is an interesting interpretation. I think we're fine with ZBA. I think he's, you know,
Well, Bob told me that he had, for whatever reason, thought the ZBA was going to give him
allow. Oh, sure.
was going to allow it.
I, you know, thinking about it now, I wonder why we just didn't. Because he's not in violation of the ordinance. And I think we accepted the application, we sent it them with the note that the advertisement said this. So we didn't say no. We said yes with,
Yeah. All right, well.
So-
It'll be an interesting ZBA meeting.
Sarah will be on Zoom,
Okay.
but I think we need, what, one more here before we can do it.
Time to do.
It's, we got a few minutes before we do anything. And Bill, and,
How you doing?
hi,
Good. Norm Benoit, I'm a resident. I was gonna give some public comment.
okay,
Great.
All right.
welcome.
Scott Badger, Vice Chair, Campbell member.
Hi. Norm
Patrick Doherty, member.
Hi.
And is our new member here
Oh, I was gonna
tonight?
ask you about her. Barb says she has not seen a lot.
I thought what the last board of select board meeting, I thought they approved.
Well, she must be slipping her mind then. I have to go back and ask her about the dementia
Yeah.
she's suffering.
I mean, it came up at the meeting.
Really?
And I thought they had a letter and approved it.
Because I literally asked Barb just 2 days ago, and she goes, I don't think
We
we
don't
looked
have
at
the, you have the select board meeting minutes?
No, I don't. And I'll ask her to look at their minutes, but she said, no, but if you talk to Scott, can you ask him, why, if she's gonna call him?
Well, I certainly will, but
I'll email you tonight after I get home, saying, can you look at your minutes to see? If she shows up, that would be, well, Bill would have told us if we had a new number, I think. Bob is considered part of the poll, right? He's one of the four, right, that we need, Bob Thompson.
I believe so.
Okay.
I was actually just sort of refreshing my memory as who's who. And I thought it said full member, at least on our website.
Or if
No,
Jim,
it just says selectman rep. So I guess I don't know.
but he's a voting member,
Yeah.
so I think it counts. That's why Bob looks like some of the front page. Or is that the back door? Boy, what a difference in a couple of days, huh? It's cold today.
Mm. Did Bill mention anything about the capital improvement plan?
No, he has to,
We're
hello,
just talking about
we're
you.
just talking about you. Are you here as a public or if you're a member?
I'm just curious.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Did you submit your letter to the
I
select board?
did, but I haven't heard it.
Okay. Hello, Mr.
It
Pettis.
was Tuesday.
Hi.
Well, we're good. Oh, we're four. The other thing you have to do is, well, so there's no material changes to the,
I can get it for you.
from the public hearing, so, but we have to then vote not to have the public hearing. There's no need to have a second one, we can still have to vote. And I forgot to pass out the minutes from the public hearing, that's why.
I'm all set. Thank you.
How you feeling? How you feeling?
Young gorilla.
Pretty good.
How are you doing?
Jerry's not coming?
But Bob's not here, we're not replacing him with an alternate, right?
Correct. Jim would replace Bill.
Is Sarah locked on yet?
No, that's what I was just checking the email to see if she had sent me anything else. It's just
Give her a minute. Bob, what's going
because
on?
I sent her the minutes from the public hearing, since she didn't have it. And I bet you the short-term rental application is in the cabinet that Bill has the keys for. They started doing that. They do that occasionally. If they don't fill it out, then you just go in the cabinet.
So you've got it all available.
I have it here. We can. Everything looks fine. I mean, it's a brand new application, so they're limited to the 30. Tax card looks good. They have their own license. I mean, their stuff. Their advertisements for their brand new. I don't know where that is. Do you know where that is?
Susan?
Retreat Way. That's a new road for me.
Mm. The presentation of the Canes is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I heard about it. I heard it was very-
Just, never imagined so much depth of history, for both families in Jackson.
Well, I thought it was interesting was that her parents also got the cane. I mean, that was amazing.
I don't remember which house, but one had 19 family members in the Jackson Cemetery.
Wow.
Wow, that's a lot.
Oh,
So request paid. So now, just as long as you know, we're on recording.
got a red light on.
Oh. You must have stopped by and I got pressed it.
Doesn't trust you.
It's been recording for the last 7 minutes. Okay.
Right. So I'll call the
Skip.
meeting to order. So the roll, you noted everyone that's here, David? And
David Campbell?
and we can go around the table if you want, but I think
Okay.
you've noted everybody, that's good.
Okay.
County property?
And you said that Sarah's not signed on yet.
No.
Okay. So we've got 2 sets of minutes to approve. The minutes. Oh, sorry, voting member, that's right. So Jim, you'll be voting for Bill.
Okay.
Right. Okay, now we have 2 sets of minutes, minutes from the previous meeting last month, and then minutes from the public hearing. Any discussion or any edits to the meeting, minutes from the last meeting? Do you have a motion to accept them?
Well, I remember, I think Jerry mentioned the fact that we were concerned about whether it's called a cistern or a tank, where the water was going to be held in. It was decided, I think, that it was supposed to be called a tank rather than a cistern. Is that correct, Dick? but I don't know if it's written in the minutes or not.
With that, yes, it's down at the bottom. Question the use of the word cistern in the document. Member Bennett indicated it was the language
Where's that
provided.
one?
It's in the capital improvement, second, third sentence from the bottom. Member Bennett indicated it was the language provided by the Emergency
Okay.
Management Committee, of which he is a member.
And did we approve that or not approve that, or do we not do that?
That's what we're talking about now.
Okay,
So, so it should be something different, or
it should be,
No, I
Well,
think
do the
that's
minute-
how it went down.
it is? Okay.
It's- I think that catches what the discussion was.
Okay.
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 Okay. So do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I can make that motion. Oh, Jim will make
For
that
the
motion.
minutes for September?
Yep.
Okay.
Second?
Second. Doesn't matter.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ooh, hold on, sorry, it show that. I think she's coming out. She's joining. She's joining.
Give her a second before we move on.
There she is.
Hey, Sarah. Hi. We just voted through the September meeting minutes, but did you have any edits or changes that you wanted to?
No.
Okay. Okay, great. So we're gonna move on to the the public hearing minutes. And any edits, changes, questions? Do you have a motion to accept them?
I'll make that motion.
A second? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, so next on our agenda is public comment on anything that's not on our agenda.
Yes, my name is Norman Benoit. Thank you for the opportunity for public comment. My wife and I have a home on 43 Balsam Drive. Been here 15 years, really love the town. Where I'm going to end up is, I think your site disturbance ordinance, which is in the zoning code, this is 4.1.6, needs some serious work. And I'll tell you what kind of brought me here with that. Late May, early June, I got a notice in the mail that there was going to be blasting across the street, a lot across the street from us, a steeply graded type of lot. That's required under state law to notify, abutters within so many feet. So we got that notice. We also were given the opportunity to have pictures taken inside the house of our existing cracks and so forth. So we availed ourselves of that opportunity in case we had extra cracks, which so far we haven't, which is good. The next day I called Mr. Bennett, the building inspector, who is very responsive and polite, and I told him, I said, I looked at the zoning code and I think a plan needs to be filed under the site disturbance ordinance for this. And it's going to be a major disturbance because we're blasting the whole thing. It's over 10,000 square feet, et cetera. It's clearly a major disturbance. And he didn't dissent from that. And he said, I'll keep my ear to the ground. So fast forward to maybe mid-August, drive up one evening and I see this big equipment, the big steel mats for the blasting and all that other stuff is on the lot across the street. So I called Mr. Bennett the next morning and I said, did they file a plan with the town? He says, no, I said, I was up there yesterday. He says, they don't need to file a plan. I have no jurisdiction because I haven't filed for a building permit, which I found to be a little strange in the sense that, you know, I don't know what one has to do with the other. But anyway, apparently that's his position. You can follow up with him on that. And then the next day they did all the blasting. So I'm here not for me because it's too late for me, but really for other people in the town and how this type of issue might be handled in the future. I went before the Board of Selectmen on the issue, explained the whole thing to them, went through the ordinance. We had a nice discussion, and they said, you know, we should get some input from the planning board on this. So that's why I'm here. And they said, you know, we need input from the planning board. I said, it's fine. So I couldn't make last month's meeting here, the planning board, but I'm here now. The ordinance talks about guidelines. There's guidelines at the back of 4.16. There is no application process. There is no enforcement mechanism. There's no fine. It's a toothless type of ordinance. I don't know if that was intentional or not. There was some discussion, the town engineer was there. He talked about how it had been amended, I think in 15 or so, 2015, or it might have been 19. And so basically, there's no, unless you file for a building permit or you file for subdivision approval, at least as I understand the town's position, is nothing can be done by the town.
We do have a site disturbance permit required, right?
Well, it doesn't talk about a permit. That's why I think this ordinance needs a lot of work. By the way, I practiced law in Rhode Island for 40 years in the area of municipal law and public finance, bonds and so forth. So I drafted a lot of ordinances and state statutes in my day. In fact, I was a town solicitor in Rhode Island. So, you know, this ordinance needs work. If, in fact, the town wants to govern this. I think you want to, because...
So are you saying that we don't require a site disturbance permit?
No, there's nothing in there about a permit. It talks about filing, it talks about a plan,
Right.
and the building inspector says he's got no jurisdiction. Now, if I'm smart enough not to apply for a building permit or subdivision approval, I could blast the top of a mountaintop right off here, and, you know, no matter how many houses are below me and how many town roads are there close, and there's no jurisdiction to do it.
Well, there are state codes and building codes, and those do come into play
Those are
regardless of what
inapplicable.
Jackson does.
I'm sorry. I researched all that. There's no, state law leaves it up to the municipality as far as the land use aspects of this. If there were a river, like a big water area near here, then you're talking about some state jurisdiction, but there's no state jurisdiction. The only thing is to notify the people,
Right,
which they
well,
did.
there are building codes that cover blasting, and so we don't specify in our ordinance exactly how plumbing should be installed, but there's a state building code that covers that sort of thing. And we'll certainly take a look at it.
Yeah, take a look at it with all due respect, because I researched the state law. Like I said, I practiced law for 40 years. I researched the state law. There's nothing in state law that governs a site disturbance in a town. Now, a lot of towns have specific...
No, you're right. The
ordinances.
state law does not require the town to require a site disturbance permit or a plan. But when we discussed this at the meeting, the point was that the state does require that blasting be done according to a particular code, and that code is designed to protect the
There's
property.
a blasting code, which in my circumstance, which would be the same for every person in this town, simply gives you notice. Now, there's laws governing blasting companies. I'm not saying they did a bad job or they did anything, illegal. They complied with whatever the regulations are to govern a blasting company. But as far as site disturbance, that's a local issue here in New Hampshire.
Right, and I'm saying, I guess, that if
So that's why I'm here.
if they're doing blasting, we rely on the building code to ensure that blasting is done according to code.
Right.
We'll certainly look at it, make
Yeah,
sure that.
but the
that-
building code doesn't govern blasting.
uh,
I've researched it.
okay. We'll look into it.
And you could check with your town solicitor. I think you want to get input from the town solicitor, talk to the engineer, talk to the building official. But if that's the town's position, I'm telling you what they said their position is, we can't do anything about it. I mean, you could literally level the top of a mountain. I mean, I can't set off a firecracker that's too big in this town without, potentially getting a fine. But you can do blasting. And the town's position, at least what I heard, is there's nothing we can do about it. So I suggest that the town look at that ordinance, and the selectmen wanted to get your input as to whether the ordinance should be beefed up. And I'd be happy to work with people to give language to beef it up, but there's no teeth in it whatsoever. And you're gonna get more and more of this blasting, because what you find now is this lot,
Well,
years ago,
right,
people now, they're willing to pay up for a view. And the lots that are left with the really good views have, very steep slopes. So you're gonna get more and more of this, because in the old days, the cost was prohibitive. Now it's part of the investment, and it's a good investment
Right.
to blast.
We'll certainly look at it, but
Yeah.
there's been a lot of blasting in town. This is a very rocky town, and so it doesn't
Right.
require just steep slopes to require blasting. I mean, my own house required blasting to put in a foundation and a basement, and so.
Yeah, but I mean,
So
that's
there has been a history of blasting in town. We've not run into problems so far. We'll certainly look at the ordinance, but it's certainly the intent of the town to ensure that stuff like that is done in a proper and safe manner.
Yeah.
If we're not, if our ordinance does not, cite or align with a state or national ordinance that does ensure that, then we'll certainly, I think, take a look at that.
We should also talk to Kevin Bennett
Mm-hmm.
to see why he feels
Yep.
he doesn't have authority
Yep.
to enforce anything on that.
Yep.
Because that would be really important for him to feel that he could step in and monitor
Right.
at least.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, he said he went out there, but he says, I can't do anything about it, so.
Right, so we
Okay.
should find out why he feels
Right,
that
and
way.
then, and then
And
the rocks
word
roll
something.
down where the culvert is, so, we haven't had a big rain event, since this blasting's been done. But, I get concerned, I'm right across the street below, the road's right there, it could wash out, somebody should be looking at whether, and if you look at the substance of the ordinance, somebody put a lot of thought into the substance of it, as to what, the guidelines are and all of that, but there's no enforcement, so, mechanism. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Appreciate it.
The town administrator has all my contact information. If you feel like I could be helpful in any way, I'm happy. Like I say, it's too late for me, but, I do think future blasting, somebody should be taking a look at it and not, just.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and certainly
Yeah,
appreciate your help. if you-
your research will be valuable.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
And on that note, there are several boards in town looking for members, including this board.
Well, I'm a part-timer. They asked me actually if I wanted to be on this board, and I said I'm a part-time resident, I'm sorry, so I don't qualify. But we're up here almost half the year, and we love the place. And if our grandkids weren't in Rhode Island, then we'd be up here like year-round, all the time. But I'm happy to help out.
Thank you.
In any way that I can. So I just think it's something that needs to be looked at.
Thank you.
So where did this occur?
Balsam Drive, 43 Balsam Drive. You could, if you drive by there, you'll see, and again, the guy's got a right to do whatever he wants with his property. I don't have a problem with that, and if, I guess my problem is it just seems like, I looked at the ordinance and, I thought that at least there'd be some plan and file with the town, but didn't happen, so.
And what happens on your property should not adversely affect the abutters.
Correct.
So that's what all the wording in the ordinance
That's why it's
should
been
deal
handled.
with.
Not to speak for the road either, because, this is a dead end, but
Right.
And if it washed out, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but the blasting could be, on a significant road that causes a major problem for folks if it washes out. Because that ordinance talks about sedimentation control and all that other business. But the state's not gonna help you out on it. I researched it and, it's at the local level. And if you Google New Hampshire and blasting, you're gonna find a bunch of towns have ordinances on blasting that actually have an application, enforcement mechanism, and a fine if, you don't follow, or an ability in terms of enforcement and trying to stop the thing. But those ordinances do exist in multiple towns. I researched.
Which is also helpful to us, because rather than reinventing the wheel, we can go to the towns that have that in place and use that as a reference. And
Yeah, and like I say, the guts of the ordinance, in terms of what the guidelines and all these other things, seem like somebody put a lot of thought into it, like as to your sedimentation control and all that other stuff. So the substance, I think, may not need a lot of work, but it's just, there's no teeth in it.
Right.
Okay. Appreciate your comments.
Sure.
We're gonna move on.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, next on the agenda.
No other public comment?
Thank you. Jane, did you have any? Okay, so we have one short-term rental application. We do not have the physical application here on the
I
table.
sent it to you, everyone received a copy of it, probably didn't print it out. I do have it online here if anybody wants to read it. The application is for Chris and Kate Comanche. It's on 13 Retreat Way in Jackson. Do you know what that is? Retreat Way? Is that a new street?
That's up on Tyrol.
Tyrell?
Retreat Way is, what? Goes into the right, it's another cul-de-sac.
Okay. This is a brand new one. When I looked at the documentation, we do have their tax card. They do have an advertisement. What they're advertising does match their septic and tax card. Again, like I said, this is a new rental, so they need the 30 limit rentals under that criteria, and they acknowledge that. So everything is in line for this.
Any discussion? Questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to, what's the technical term for what we're doing?
Accept.
Accept the application.
Yeah, no, like,
So second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next, capital improvement plan. We had a public hearing. 2 members of the public showed up mostly to support our efforts. There were no changes made at that meeting. Jerry did question the use of the term cistern, but when we looked it up, it appeared that it has different meanings and it was consistent. Our use of it was consistent with at least one of those meanings. And you mentioned, Dick, that it was the language used by the Emergency Management Committee, so being consistent with that, I think was probably good. It would not appear that we need to have a second public hearing, since there are no changes, no comments really. Do you have any comments on the?
No, I think the big issue is the fire station.
Yeah. Fortunately, not our bailiwick. We just say what's happening. So I guess what we need to do is vote to not have the second public hearing.
Because it was voted on in your
Right,
August
it
meeting
was.
Yep.
that we would have one, so we have to vote that we don't want one this month.
I would make that motion
Do I have,
as unnecessary.
do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right.
And I think at our next meeting, we'll probably just put some fine tuning on it and then present it to the selectmen.
And draft V4 is the one we're
Yes,
putting forward. Okay.
I'll take the word draft off of that once for next meeting.
Yeah.
So what I will present next meeting, I'll send out as what we will present to the board. And then we'll move from there.
Great. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn, Dick?
I think this is.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks again, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe,
appreciate it.
thanks for bringing it up, it's great. Good night.
So
So,
where is Balsam Drive?
I thought at the last select board meeting, I was
They were gonna
there,
vote on it,
I
yeah.
thought they voted on it.
Oh,
So I would have expected you to have gotten some notice,
thank you.
but
Barb followed up with me this week going, hey, did we hear from that woman yet?
Yeah, I sent it, I got a reply from the assistant saying she got my email.
I have a feeling it's on the agenda for this week,
Oh, okay.
or for next week, for Tuesday, and that's why Barb doesn't know, because she doesn't always.
it did come up. I don't know if it was just accepting.
It was on the agenda, but.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't know, Barb could have a little dementia, I don't know.
She's still in Africa.
That's right.
Thank you for attending, Jim.
And trust me, this is the shortest meeting I've ever had in probably the 5 years I've been on this.
Really?
And I was even the chair.
So where is Balsam Drive?
I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
Do you push the
Fine.
power button?
Yes. It is interesting, because I remember us discussing this last meeting. We thought he was gonna come.
Oh, this,
So I thought we came to the
Power.
decision that it is regulated, just done at a state level, and
I think we thought that,
other
but
than
I think we do.
citing what's already in play.
It's interesting, I was reading the ordinance when he was talking, and it's like, it does seem to emphasize more